Cool. Well, welcome. I'm glad you're here. There probably will be some more dings because I know people start meetings on the hour and end meetings on the hour. It's the craziest cultural thing. And so you don't have time to get from and to things at exactly the same moment. So um, please do, if you have not downloaded the workbook, you're probably going to be taking some notes and things like that. So we would love for you to be able to do that. If you don't have the workbook, raise your hand and John will send it to you, being the helpful soul that he is. Right? You sound so sure of yourself. So great. All right. Cool. So today we're talking about the best marketing campaigns of 2023. And some of these we did ourselves, some of these we did for clients, but we wanted to kind of do a roundup. Everybody's doing those this time of year. And also it's a really great time to learn from other people what has worked for them. And these are all aviation companies. These are all people in our space. So what we learn in maybe a marketing class at a university or something like that is often very different from what works in the business to business or aviation space. So that's why we take our examples from our own industry. And we'd also, this is very interactive. It's a small group today, so you're very welcome to jump in and comment, question, anything you want, anytime you want. Be as rowdy as you choose. If you're too rowdy, we'll kick you out. But if not, then it just makes the whole thing better if we have this audience participation. All right. So every marketing campaign has three elements: a list, an offer, and a presentation. This is really, really standard if you're marketing for Coke, if you're marketing for Nike, if you're marketing for a very specialized battery pack company that does the evacuation slides for A320s. It's the same structure for every campaign. And a lot of the reason that we see campaigns not work is because people think in terms of advertising, or they think in terms of running an ad or sending an email or doing one component of a campaign without the other two. And it's usually they focus on this section, the presentation, and they haven't really thought through the list and the offer yet. Does that make sense? And maybe Stella, you probably have some experience with that as well.
Yeah, I've got like customers who have, oh, we want this. And then you give them this and they're like, not exactly what we wanted. We want this instead.
Right. It didn't work. Right, exactly. Okay, so this is kind of the agenda for today. We're going to talk about why campaigns, why you have to go through this much effort to make something work. We're going to talk about how to construct a list, an audience, or a list, an offer, and a presentation. We're going to talk about three different campaigns. There are three examples. Example one is a prospecting campaign, which is an evergreen campaign, which everybody should be doing pretty much all the time at either a high frequency or a low frequency, but you should always be doing it. Example two will be a Valentine's Day campaign. So, we're coming up on February. So you've got time to do this. Whoa. I love my camera. It's so interactive. Stop when it's out. Okay. Stop. All right. We're going to talk about a Valentine's Day campaign. You've got 4 weeks basically to plan and execute that. So now is a good time to be thinking about Valentine's Day, and it's a great opportunity. We'll talk about why in a minute. And then example three will be live conventions and or trade shows. And we have a campaign that works really, really well for a larger company to do at one of the larger conventions or trade shows. So if you're just joining us and you don't have the PDF, raise your hand or let us know in the chat, or you can just speak up anytime. Let us know you don't have the workbook and John will send it to you. So thank you for joining us today. I'm really happy that you're here. All right. So first of all, what is a campaign? And this is going to be really elementary for those of you who have been to a university marketing course. You can sleep through the next 30 seconds or so if that's the case. If not, this is something you really need to pay attention to. So there are three elements to every campaign: a list. How do you figure out the right people who are the most likely to be interested in your product or service? Um, you want to contact those right people. You want to put together the most attractive reasons to do business with you. That's your offer. And it's not just buy my product necessarily, it is why you should buy this specific product right now, right? And then we also have a presentation. And the presentation is what we often think of as marketing. People who aren't familiar with marketing think that this is all there is just this bottom corner here. And that's like your website and your social media and direct mail packages that you send out, or postcards that you send out, or advertising that you buy in magazines, or Google ads, or phone calls, or emails, or whatever it is that you do for advertising, which a lot of people kind of have used those terms interchangeably on the internet for the last 10 years, which makes me want to scream. Advertising is one component of marketing. Marketing is this whole triangle.
You know what? The other people that are way skewed the wrong direction are those that go to business school and go to marketing class because it's part and parcel.
Uh-huh.
They teach you as though your client is Pepsi, Coke, etc., and you've got a couple of $1 million to play with, and you do all this testing and blah blah blah, and then they have courses. I mean, they have programs that you have to go through, and you play the game.
Mm-hmm.
Depends on what you're after, market penetration, etc. And but who has $1 million or two?
Right.
With?
Exactly. So their list is too big, and a lot of people, when they start working with us or start working with any other marketing company, they say, well, our list is everybody, or our list is everybody who flies private, or our list is, maybe everybody who has a King Air 350. They start with a list that is too big, and, that does two things. It wastes your money advertising to people who have no interest in your product or service. And number two, it also makes your marketing not specific enough to be successful. So, your offer isn't very good if your list isn't very specific. So these things all feed into each other. And there's a reason the list is on top of the pyramid, right? Okay, cool. So why do campaigns fail? If you have ever had a campaign fail, which is basically everybody in this room, I would imagine, if you've never had a campaign fail, you're probably either still in school or you've been so lucky it's not even funny. But yeah, raise your hand if you've never had a campaign fail. I'd love to hear what you do and how you do it. I have had a lot of campaigns fail. So I've done it just about every wrong way that you can. And it is almost always one of these three things: either a wrong or badly targeted list, which almost always means too big of a list, right? I'm trying to target too many people. The second way is that my offer is just not attractive for whatever reason. And, if you have a stinky product, or a service that is the same as everybody else's, you need to spend the time and energy differentiating your product, have something that is unique in your marketplace and uniquely valuable to your list. So if you've got the list right and you do enough of that market research and talking to people and, spending the time coming up with an attractive offer, then, that's 80% of the issue right there. And then the third thing is where we all spend all of our time and money, and that is on the presentation. But I promise you, if thing number one and thing number two are not perfect or very close to it, you can spend as much money as you want on Google Ads. You can spend as much money as you want on magazine ads. You can do a Super Bowl ad. You can do viral videos. You can do anything you want and still not be making the kinds of sales that you want to. Okay, I see some nodding and things. That's good. It's surprising how many people don't believe me, or how many people in our first or second or third or more session with us, want to just spend more money on advertising or want to just run a bigger ad or a different ad or whatever, when there is something wrong with their list or their offer. And if you don't fix that first, it doesn't matter how much of this you do. In fact, there's a saying that good marketing will make a bad product fail faster. And, the reason is because it exposes it to more people and, gives you that feedback much quicker, which is actually kind of a success because, then you get the point, you make the changes, you move forward and things like that. Okay, so let's start with the list. This is on page 4. So who is the most likely person in the universe to buy your product or service? If you can think of this in terms of not like a big mass of people, but in terms of one person, and then you think about, a second and a third and a fourth person, I like to do maybe a group of 5 or 10, depending on the type of product or service. And then you think about what characteristics do these 5 or 10 people all have in common? What magazines do they read? What demographic characteristics do they share? What geographic characteristics do they share? John, you have something to say.
Yeah, you know what? Nowadays, people don't realize how easy this is.
Mm-hmm.
Back when I got out of business school,
Mm-hmm.
you know what you had to use? You picked TV,
Mm-hmm.
radio,
Right.
newspaper, or magazines.
Yeah.
And you went for the world. You couldn't narrow it down and target anything.
Right.
They acted like you could, but you can't figure out who's going to buy a paper. Not going to buy it just because you have an ad in it.
Right. Well, and if you did have something specific, you'd either go to a specific convention or advertise in a very specific niche magazine or something
We
like that.
didn't talk about conventions back when I was going to business.
Okay, that's cool.
It was just none of this stuff. This is cool because it really helps you narrow down to where your potential is.
Right. And then you're not trying to compete with the whole world.
Mm-hmm.
Dana, you wanted to add something?
Like, I actually got a question, right?
Yeah.
What's your experience? Because I get emails all the time. Oh, third party people, we can provide you a list of, certain types of people and all that crap. I mean, I've never done it. I'm just wondering how successful it is if you've ever tried it.
I have, and I've done it where I've cross-hatched multiple lists. So as an example, in our industry, we get data from the FAA via AirPack or something like that. So we can get everybody who owns a X, Y, or Z type of aircraft.
Okay.
We may also want to cross-hatch that against people who live in the Western states, and then cross-hatch that against people who have had their aircraft for more than 2 years, and then cross-hatch that against maybe people who are members of the owners group for that aircraft type. So the list that you buy often have, 10,000 names or whatever. You need to narrow that down more than what they give you. And they don't often, I've never seen a great list with all of the selections that I want. Does that make sense to get a good sized list?
I mean, are they coming up with emails and stuff for you?
Some of them do. The FAA data doesn't require people to provide an email address. They require a mailing address. So, for that data, it's best for like a lead generation postcard or something like that, where you can use the postal address to get the rest of their information. Say download a free guide to X, Y, or Z. So yeah, that's a good way of using a list. And that's a good example. I'm glad you asked the question.
Or the people who want to sell you the NBAA list.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's a third party now that's managing some of the association lists, and they want an arm and a leg for them. In my opinion, it's better to just go to the conventions, network, get a pile of business cards the old-fashioned way, bring them home, take pictures of all the cards, send it off to Fiverr, get somebody to type it all in for you and into your CRM or whatever. That's the best way to use an association list. That's actually cheaper sometimes than getting the entire list of 10,000, because then these are people that you've actually shaken hands with and looked in the eye. And that's a much smaller list and also a much more responsive list. Yeah. Okay. So here's 27 different ways to find prospects. Of course, association lists are on here. partner marketing, etc. Most of these I'm going to use with the caveat of you don't want to use them straight out of the box. You want to scrub them in some way. I like for people to pick, for a campaign, at least 3 different sources for these kinds of things, so that you have a way of scrubbing these against each other so that you can narrow that down. For like our prospecting campaign, you may only need 10 contacts. For some of our campaigns, you're going to want more, depending on what you're trying to do and what your objective is. But we'll talk about that for each of them. So yeah, quality over quantity. Cross-reference your lists. If you buy lists from people, that's totally fine. But you don't want to be
Make sure
I guess
you take a good look at what is actually on their list before you pay good money for it.
exactly. A lot of them overcharge a lot for their lists. And Stella, it sounds like you've got some experience with this as well.
I can't hear you, Stella. What the
Uh-oh.
heck?
Your list.
Yeah.
What you do.
Yeah.
Just a long list of people who have flown before or whatever,
Right.
some obscure thing. And that's what they're trying to sell you. It's not going to be, to somebody piloting their own plane or looking for a specific kind of plane. They don't have that kind of data.
Right. Right.
They're looking to make money by selling you a list that may not even come close to what you need.
Yeah. And you have to assume that whatever they say is their criteria is the most general possible interpretation of whatever they're telling you. So yeah, those are perfectly good, perfectly legit, some of them, but you do want to use caution when buying lists. One of my favorites.
We actually
Yeah.
don't buy lists. We have to call people to send them things.
And you've been doing it for 100 years.
We started the old school way before we worked this way.
Yeah, exactly.
If we did anything, we mailed the whole list a newsletter.
Mm-hmm. One of my
favorites on a hand typed stamped envelope.
Yeah.
We don't do that.
Mm.
But our company works on building individual relationships.
Yeah.
So,
and we were just talking yesterday about, how especially in Mexico, Central America, etc., you show up and you shake hands and you look people in the eye, and that's not the same as, what we're doing here. And some of this won't work until after you have looked them in the eye and shaken their hand. And so that
exactly. If they know you, then it's okay. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So think about that in terms of, and we're going to use these examples in a couple of campaigns. Then you want to think about what is your offer, and it may be buy my product, or it may be something short of that. And we're going to talk about this in more detail when we talk about prospecting next month. But consultations, customized reports, detailed trip quotes or proposals, industry insights, a demo of a software thing, a demo of an aircraft, a demo of anything, a cup of coffee, literally or figuratively. Those are some smaller steps. And a lot of times, if your offer is buy my airplane, you need to take it down a notch from that and say, we need to have something that's an interim step. It's a consultation or something like that, because most of the products and services that we sell in this industry are too big to eat in one bite. We need to think about this in terms of a long-term relationship. What's the best first step, or best first date, or best first interaction, right? You don't want to go to dinner on a first date. You go to coffee on a first date, right? You don't want to invest too much or risk too much on either side. You just want to get that first impression. And then the presentation, which media should you choose? And my answer is at least 3. 3 from different categories. Cover the strengths and weaknesses of the different media. There is no perfect media. Everybody asks us all the time, if you could only use one, which one would you use? And, the answer is it depends on the circumstance, but why would you ever be limited to just one, So you want to choose one that has high credibility, at least one that has high credibility, or is, moderately credible. And you want to choose one that is inexpensive. So choose one in each of those categories, and you want to make sure that you are diversifying, because if people only see you on the web, you only exist in one dimension. You're not a real person. If they have met you in person and you've shaken their hand, and that's one of your methods is trips, and visits and site visits and, or phone calls or print ads or whatever, then that makes your social media or your online efforts a lot more attractive because you exist in more than one plane to that person. This is incomplete and probably needs to be updated. We could blow out social media to be 5 pages in and of itself. We could blow out direct mail into postcards, packages, et cetera, et cetera. So, this is obviously incomplete, but it's just kind of to give you an idea of what are the pros and cons of each of the media types. Any thoughts on any of this? Go ahead, John.
And regardless of which you use, you need to think outside the box. In other words, matter of fact, it's better if you don't even consider the possibility.
It's pretty funny. What a moron controller was. Yeah.
I just muted you, Michael. But John, go ahead.
You need to assume there is no box. Don't think outside the box. You need to do something different.
Yeah, you're not limited.
Dan Kennedy gave us an example where he had sent, I don't know how many different paper snail mail stuff to a particular client. And finally, he gave up and sent him a trash can with a note to say, this is for you to put all that stuff in I've been sending you. The guy called him back and he got the sale. So,
right. A brand new galvanized steel garbage can from Home Depot. Yeah, I mean, that can be a method or a presentation method.
What I'm saying is you got to think outside the box.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw a quote a month or so ago that says, assume there is no box.
Right. Exactly. So the more creative you can get, the better, but you do want to choose at least 2 methods, at least 3 methods, really. Most people stop at 1, and that's just not going to cut it these days. There's so much bombardment of advertising coming from everywhere. So, you do need to exist in more than one plane. But here's the caveat to that.
Yep.
Here's what we don't want. And, to Dan Kennedy's barrage of paper mail, you never want to use one method more than 3 times in a row. If it's not working, you need to either switch methods or that's not a good prospect for you. And that's another good reason to use more than one method. So you send them an email. If they don't respond to the email, you send them a direct mail. If they don't respond to the direct mail, you send them something else, or you connect on LinkedIn. You continue down the path, switching methods until you connect with somebody. And you do want to be respectful about it. You do not want to be robotic or automated sounding, especially, with some of these methods that everybody seems to be using these days. There's a lot of automated ChatGPT powered marketing that's kind of flooding everybody's inbox. Okay. So the way that you avoid this is you make your list smaller and you vary your presentation method and you make sure that your offer actually is valuable to the person that you're talking with. All right. So example number 1, this is prospecting. And this is everybody should be doing prospecting. When we're in high prospecting mode, we're doing 10 at a time. When we're in low frequency mode, or, we've got enough clients for now, and I'm overwhelming Stella and everybody else that works with us with too much work, and that's not happened anytime in the recent past, then I go down to 2 or 3 at a time. But you're always doing it. You're acquiring a lead or prospect from one of those sources that we mentioned. Another one of my favorites is Lead Feeder or Deal Front. It identifies people that have visited your website and tells you which pages they visited and things like that. And so if somebody's been to your website and they fit all the criteria that you're looking for, all those demographics and psychographics that would make a good customer for you, you research and connect with them. I like to use LinkedIn for step 2. Email, or you can use a DM on LinkedIn. You can use a call, or you switch methods and do another method. Wait a week. If you don't get a response, try an email number 2, a call number 2, right? 2 methods a week later, and then 2 more methods a week later, email and call. So, just using 2 methods here, I would make that 3 and, add LinkedIn to that. Every time you connect with a potential customer, you're going to get one of 3 responses, either a yes, no, or a not yet. The vast majority of the time, it's a not yet. Yes, I'm interested in what you have to offer, but now is not a good time. Or let's talk after the first of the year, or let's talk in summer, or, we just hired somebody, give us a few months to see if it works out, and then let's talk again, whatever it is. So if yes, you continue your sales process. If it's a no, they're not qualified, or you find out they're not qualified, then you just take them off your list and you add another one. So you've got your top 10 that you're flowing through all the time with this process. When we do our prospecting course in February, we've got some Excel spreadsheets that you can use to keep track of all this. And you just basically check off first email sent, first call sent, second email sent, and you put the dates in of when those things happened. And a bunch of really cool things happen when you do that. You find out which are your most effective emails, right? If you're using the same emails throughout the process, or at least the same email format. You're going to find out if people are responding on LinkedIn better than to email, or if they're responding to calls better than to emails. And you're also finding out how many contacts it takes before they respond to you. It's not surprising if it takes 8 contacts. People are super busy. You're catching them in the middle of their life. They are not necessarily specifically interested in what you have to offer. So, be persistent, just be varied and be respectful about your persistence.
And not only that,
Yeah.
we had a stat from a year ago or so, which may not be valid now, but the point, what they're trying to get across is you can't. This one said that most sales calls, people give up on the first or second try, most salespeople.
Right.
And the reality is, it's somewhere between the 8th and 48th contacts, where you actually get the sale.
Right. And again, it doesn't matter what type of contact it is, as long as there are a number of them. Abdul, you had a question?
Yeah. Yes, but John just answered it, so that's fine. Yep.
Oh, okay. John, you answered his question. That's so cool. Right. So yeah, being respectfully persistent, and this whole process is meant to be spread out over at least 3 to 6 weeks. Your results may vary, and we've got all of the templates and outlines for the calls and messages and things like that in our prospecting course. And if you let me know you'd like that, I will send that to you as well. I don't want to overload people with too much information, but that's in our prospecting course that we're going to be doing in February. Also, we'll talk about this in more detail. But I also wanted to give you some other examples of other campaigns that use the same method: list, offer, presentation. So this is the most expensive, but also the most lucrative campaign that we run almost every year. John drives me crazy, or I drive John crazy, because I want to buy things for this, and little paper airplanes and boxes of chocolates and other things like that. And this is one that you want to be very careful about your list, but your list kind of defines itself. This is the ones that got away. So you can look through your spreadsheet from your prospecting campaign, right? How many people did you actually get to the point where you did a consultation with? They're qualified, you'd love to work with them, they seem like a good fit, but for whatever reason, it didn't work out. And that could be 1 year ago, 3 years ago, up to 6 years ago, we've had this be successful. I wouldn't recommend going any further than that, because people retire or whatever and move and, so on. But if you know that they are still where they are, and you can do that with a quick LinkedIn check to see if they're still in the same position. If they didn't, or higher, yeah, exactly. If they didn't buy from you, but they should have, this is a great campaign, because they already have had a sales pitch from you. They're already qualified based on what you learned about them before. You've invested in researching their situation, you can be super custom with these. So your offer is something they wanted maybe that you didn't offer at the time. We didn't have that tool, or we didn't have that service, or we didn't have what you wanted a year ago, but now we do. Or the same products or services you offered last time, but maybe they're going to be in a position to buy now and they weren't last year or the year before or whatever. Or, you can offer some type of a bonus or gift certificate or some type of added value as an incentive to get them to consider you again. So that's your list, your offer. Your presentation would be, we always start with a mailed package. And the reason we do this is because it's Valentine's Day, because chocolate can be mailed in the United States pretty safely in February, almost anywhere in the United States, without it turning into chocolate soup. So, candy is a wonderful way to do this. It's fairly inexpensive to get high quality, really good chocolates or candies for Valentine's Day. It's kind of lighthearted. It's a good way to get them something in the mail that is not just an envelope, because people put mail into two categories. This is something I'm going to open. This is something that goes in the round file, right? And if it is a box, then they're going to at least open it before they throw it away. So you put something in there to make it three-dimensional. It's a trick to get them to open it. We also like to include a catalog or a brochure with our current products and services, a book or a calendar or branded tchotchkes, a coffee mug, a pen. This is a much better use of those things than, I think, a much better use of those things than just giving them away at trade shows or whatever. You're going to want to follow that up with social media or event contacts where you're actually shaking people's hands, or connecting with them on LinkedIn, et cetera, and a series of emails. So this is what it looks like. You research your prospects online to find out if they're still really in the business and everything else, and that they're still really viable. You make your final list. If they don't make the final list, you add them to your holding pattern. That is March's workshop. We're going to talk about holding patterns and things like that. So if yes, you send them a recapture package in the mail with chocolates and pens and a brochure and a catalog and a nice letter that says, hey, I remember when we talked last, you were interested in this and we were not able to offer it at that time. But I wanted to let you know that we've had some changes in our company. I'm sure you've had some changes in your company. So let's talk again. Let's have another consultation, another conversation. You also want to engage on social media over 6 weeks. You want to, be liking and commenting on their, whatever they're talking about. So you're getting back involved with their company. You're finding out what's going on, who they've hired, if they've been in the news, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then you want to send them 3 to 5 emails that are using the same messaging, just spread out over time. The first one might be, hey, did you get the box in the mail? Second one might be, I'm not sure if you noticed, but here's some changes. 5 things that are different about our company this year than 5 years ago. Things that are different in the market than they were when last time we talked, et cetera. So did they schedule an appointment? If yes, you continue with your sales process. If no, add them to your holding pattern. Right? So when you calculate your expenses, you have to account the time to research your list, formulate your offer, and design your presentation. If you are using ABCI time, you'd count your office hours or group office hours or whatever it is that you used for this. You'd count your printing, postage, calendars, chocolates, paper airplanes, whatever it is that you bought, to send to them and so on. And, the assets that you have are active prospects in your pipeline, revived relationships, referrals, and sales. So sometimes this doesn't add to a sale, it will add to a referral. That's okay, right? That still counts towards your return on investment. So, all right. And then campaign number 3 is a live event. And this is going to look like overkill. And everybody's going to go, oh my gosh, we would never do that. That's so much work. But the thing is, these events cost thousands of dollars even to just walk in the door, because you're spending money on travel and hotels, and admission is going up, to all of these things, your association dues, all of those things are in the thousands, or, if you have a booth, they're in the tens of thousands for this sort of thing. So you don't want to spend that kind of money without having done the prep and the follow-up. So this is a fairly complete campaign that starts with sending emails and social posts and other things. And they don't necessarily have to be about the event, but you're starting to build that relationship. Let's say we're talking about NBAA Base, which is the biggest event in the aviation, business aviation industry. That's October 22nd to 24th. Even in February, you can start with, hey, if we're going to see you in Las Vegas in October, let's plan to meet, and let's, because we're going to be doing a trivia quiz, or we're going to be doing this, or we're going to be doing that. We'd love to have you stop by our booth, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That is not too early for some of these really large events. You can mention it in your printed newsletter. You can say, put it on a calendar of events. These are places you can see ABCI this year. We're going to be here, we're going to be there, we're going to be this other place. So these don't necessarily have to be hitting it very hard, but you have to be hitting it very, very early. Right around August, September, you want to send an invitation postcard, another promo email, things like that. You want to have a scheduling landing page so that people can schedule an appointment with you, or at least, have some way to enter your quiz, or, do something to generate leads that you're going to plan to follow up with during and after the show. We do phone calls before and after the show. Another printed newsletter, with some pictures from, hey, we had a great time at the show. Thank you for visiting us. Here's who won our prizes, et cetera, et cetera. And, then kind of a wrap up, and you continue with your holding pattern where you're sending social posts, info emails, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, so that you don't lose track of those people that you got business cards from and those leads that you captured at the show. So what's your impression of this? Does it seem like it's way overkill? Does it seem like it's about what you do? Do you do more or less than this? What works for you guys? I'd love to hear your experiences especially with NBAA or with any other show that you go to. Some of the others are bigger for the airlines.
Yeah. So, I mean, we do this, but I mean, we wouldn't start. I mean, honestly, that seems pretty far out to be starting. I mean, we always do it maybe within a couple months of the event, we'll start to really ramp stuff up.
Yeah. I know we just talked about, and I know you do some events like Raqqa and the Alaskan event and things like that. I don't know that you necessarily need to do that for some of the smaller events when there's less than 1,000 booths. You're not trying to compete with the whole world at those events, and they already know you pretty well. Probably a lot of the players at those events. Does that sound right?
Yeah, that sounds right. I mean, the biggest one we do is that aircraft commerce one, right? The one that we do in Miami every year. So I don't know
Yeah.
how many vendors there, but there's a lot. That's a pretty big show.
Right. So one thing we might do for ETT is maybe put together like a schedule of events, or see ETT at, put a calendar on your website so that would cover some of these bases. And then if you do send out regular emails, have just that little calendar at the bottom of your email, saying here's places that you can see us in the future. You don't have to hit it hard,
Right.
but I think there are some things that we can add, especially to those bigger events for you.
Yeah, that'd be a good idea. We should do that.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, not everybody has to do all of this for every show. This is kind of the, I guess, extreme example of, this would be something like a broker that's going to NBAA and is competing with every other, and I don't know if or, a software company or something like that that's competing with 50 other software companies at NBAA. You want to make it worth your money.
Well, the thing is, even though it sounds like a lot and it's starting early, we've had the experience for when we go to NBAA, having done this, we walked up to people and they see the name tag with ABCI. Oh, you guys are ABCI. Yeah, I got your stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then they start talking. It's a lot easier to get going that way.
Yeah, if they know who you are, rather than if it's the first time they've heard of you, that can be really intimidating. I'm not great at networking. That is like not my, especially cold networking. with people that I don't know. I feel much more comfortable if they come to me than if I go to them. And so, that's really sets that up nicely. If they've heard from you, they know, okay, you're doing this crazy thing at NBAA. You have paper airplanes you're giving away or $2 bills that you're giving away or something. I mean, it doesn't matter what it is, as long as it's something that they will remember and sets you apart from the wash of navy blue suits running around the room at which can be really something if you've never been to that event. It's I keep talking about it's a great event for navy blue suit salespeople to show off their wares. But so you want to wear a red suit or something, that's but anyway, yeah, you do want to stand out. And in this one, you've got the same situation. Your list is people that you want to connect with, people that are likely to go to NBAA, people who are association members. You can use their member directory. You don't have to buy the list to cherry pick. These are the people in the industry that I want to set up an appointment with. And you can hire somebody to do research for you and say, I want all of the people from the list that meet these criteria. All of those things are things that you can do to set this up so that you're sending a printed newsletter and all of those things to people who are the most likely to run into you at NBAA and stop you in a hallway and say, "Hey, I got your newsletter. You said this about that. I have questions, or I want to talk some more about that." And that to me is 1,000 times easier than just wandering the halls lost. And hoping that you're walking up to people's booths and being the what is the word? Not being in the position of power. You're meeting them for the first time. They don't know you from Adam. They have 50 other people to talk to that they know are qualified. And you're just another navy blue suit, right?
And she's talking from experience because I've watched even the last time we were at the NBAA.
Yeah.
People will be walking by and say, "Oh, you're with ABCI," and then it starts the conversation.
Right. Exactly. And one year we hired a magician at NBAA. We had him doing some lead up things, in some of our marketing and things like that. So everybody was excited to see him at our booth. And he turned $1 bills into $100 bills. And he showed me how to do it. I still can't do it, even though he showed me very slowly how you do it. But everybody wanted to see that, so that is something you can tease ahead of time, way ahead of time, and still have people showing up at your booth curious and interested. And that's your opportunity to look them in the eye and shake their hand. Right?
Yep.
Okay. Any other questions about events?
I have a question about something that I saw.
Yeah.
I believe it was something that someone from Gulfstream had shared on this last NBAA and the reasons why they chose not to attend and how they felt more or less that I guess conferences like NBAA are oversaturated, or maybe it's like the ROI for attending, like you said, with the hotels and everything and the badges and whatnot, to just be like a drop in the sea of water for some cases and not having that visibility. What do you feel on that sense? Like what he said, like, do you feel that this would still be worth it, or maybe they have a point in that maybe it's a little bit oversaturated and we should look to see how to set ourselves apart?
Right.
Well, my take on that is, and she may argue with me, and that's cool.
I always do.
But if you go to one the first time and you decide not to go again, you might be okay. But if you go to the second one, then you need to go from then on. And as far as saturation, I wondered about that myself, but having been to ever since we started the company, we've been to every one, haven't we?
Yep, except the year that there wasn't one.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see it as being oversaturated, and I mean, we're a small company. Man, I don't think it's oversaturated.
I'm going to argue with you
See, I told you.
And go back to this graphic. I think Gulfstream looked at this. They are very smart people, and they decided, you know what, this isn't our list. Our list is high net worth and ultra high net worth individuals, family trusts. Who buys Gulfstreams? It is not necessarily the business to business people that are attending NBAA. They are our market, so the list is perfect for us. But they're not necessarily Gulfstream's list.
And I'm going to counter that.
Okay.
And with respect, you are probably correct.
Mm-hmm.
However, there are probably a percentage, and probably not very large percentage of people at the NBA that are their clients,
Mm-hmm.
but not enough for them to make it worth their time.
Right. So they looked at the list of people attending NBAA, and they looked at their list of prospects and said, most of the people that we're selling to are not necessarily the kinds of people that come to NBAA. Their offer is buy an airplane. Very few plane sales actually occur at the show, even though they sometimes announce them at the show. And the presentation is so expensive for Gulfstream. They have to match or beat last year's presentation in terms of extravagance and in terms of getting the airplanes there and having more airplanes. If they're going to do it, they have to really, really do. They have to compete with all those other heavy metal OEMs.
Yeah, they don't really care. I mean, I've represented a couple of potential buyers on a couple of occasions, NBAA.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't care about me. They want to talk to the real guy.
Yeah, they want to talk to the end user.
Yep.
Right. So their presentation costs are so high, and their list is maybe, a half or a third or a tenth or 1% of the people that are going to NBAA. So I think that they made this calculation and they made it probably correctly for them. Did that answer your question, Priscilla?
No, that makes sense. I think that what you're saying is so true. I think that what might work with one company might not be work for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And you kind of like have to find the shoe that fits best for what we're doing, the product that we're selling, the audience, and also the presentation. So I think that makes sense.
Yeah, and we're going to talk in just a minute about ROI. And if you have been to NBAA and you have your data, you want to go through that and figure out, is this worth doing again? Sorry, John, I cut you off.
No.
Okay.
I'm disagreeing with her.
Really? Wow. Okay, cool. Okay. So now, test your results, right? So, if you went to NBAA last year, as an example, or if you did a campaign, use this. And I actually left this graphic in, even though it is somewhat distracting from the point. Okay, so there are 3 numbers that you need in order to calculate ROI, right? How much did we spend on the campaign? That's X. How many new customers did we acquire? That's Y. And then what is your average customer lifetime value? And since most of us don't really know what that is, customer lifetime value, we only look at the first transaction with a client and say, this is how this would be your Z or whatever. And we'd use that to calculate our ROI, and that's not quite accurate. Most of us in the aviation industry, our first transaction is not the only transaction with a happy customer. Most of the money is made after the first transaction, so on the second and subsequent transactions. So to calculate customer lifetime value, that is customer value times average lifetime, right? So basically, average number of years a customer stays active divided by your total number of customers, right? You have to also add the value of your referrals. So we have some customers that have a very low, they're at our lowest service level, but they are some of our most valuable customers because they provide a ton of referrals to us.
Well, and not only that, but we have had customers who decided to do something else, and they still give us referrals.
Yeah, even though they're not working with us for whatever reason. So we're not a good fit for them, but they know that we're a good fit for others. So, right. And there's some other ways to break down the customer value into the average purchase value over a set time frame, et cetera, divided by the total number of purchases over the same time frame. So you can get as specific as you want with these numbers, but the important thing is that you know these three numbers. What is your X? How much did you spend on the campaign? What is your Y? I apologize for all the dinging. How many new customers did you acquire? What is the customer lifetime value? So your ROI is actually Y times customer lifetime value minus X, which is your expenses. Make sense? And if we can get as complicated as we want with that, but that's the simplest version of the equation. And it's really important to do this. So many people go to shows and they really don't have a feel for, did we make money? Did we lose money? But we have to go because even if we lose money, we have to go because X, Y, or Z. Not true. There's a million shows you could go to. There's a million ways to advertise your company. There's a million ways to market your services that aren't going to break the bank.
And there are many, many different kinds of shows, as she said, and they're everywhere and all the time.
Yeah, and sometimes a smaller show is a lot easier to get a positive ROI because this X is much smaller.
Yep.
Right. Okay. So good ROI, do it again, right? Whether that's your Valentine's Day campaign, your prospecting campaign, whatever, keep doing it, make it better all the time, improve what you can, touch up the little bits and pieces as you see fit. If it flops, then you want to go back and check those three things: your list, your offer, and your presentation. One of them stinks. I'm going to guess it's probably either your list or your offer, because most presentations, are not terrible. It's just, it's usually the list or the offer that's off or wrong or misplaced or too big or too small or, in terms of too big in terms of the list or not attractive enough in terms of the offer. Those are the two most common problems. Experiment with a smaller, more targeted list until your results improve. And the only one that you can't go smaller with is the shows. If you really, really, really want to do NBAA, you have to go big or go home, right? You have to pay the money to get in. So you're stuck with a pretty big X in order to do that. Two things you can do: make your offer more attractive. And by that, I don't mean discount the cost of your product. I mean, add value to your product, make it more convenient, add training, add service, add something to your product to make it more valuable to your customer. Another thing that you can do is also add more high-touch, low-cost presentation options. Phone calls are probably the least expensive, most effective, and I hate doing them, and I hate saying that, but that is the best way to improve the ROI of a campaign, is to add some phone calls. At some point in that campaign, figure out where would be the most effective time, usually right after you mail a direct mail package or something like that. Make a phone call, make sure they got the package. That can really improve the results of a package. Questions on ROI or testing your results or campaigns? Great.
I have a question on excuse me. So we always get the thing, like, for example, for us, we're an FBO, so what we're trying to sell is fuel, and we also have real estate and lease out hangars. So they're not ticket items that somebody just woke up randomly on a Thursday and is like, you know what I really want to buy today, and they go out and and purchase. So what would you do in the sense for those big ticket items, in that sense, where one, in the sense that you really need an aircraft first before you can really come to us? How would that be measurable in ROI?
Okay. So you go back to the list of people who are most likely to be interested in, let's take one element of your business model, and that's real estate. You have hangar space or office space, or what is it that you're?
Both.
Okay.
Most of the time, both. So we could do corporate hangars that come with offices next to them, or we'll do T hangars or community hangars. That's just the hangar without an office.
Okay. So your list would be people who require airside space, who also need an office. So you'd look at the types of businesses in your area, in your city or in your municipality that could benefit from that. And it might be a really short list. It might only be 10 companies. And, find out what they're doing now, find out how what you can offer could be more attractive to them or more convenient or, a better rate or better service. Or, we also have, some other businesses nearby that would be good partners for you. There's as an example, an FBO in Ogden that has a pretty unique situation where it's really easy to get past security or to get through security because of the way the airport is constructed, and they have FAA approval to have people able to visit restaurants at that airport, as an example. So that's something that they can take advantage of and say, hey, let's do your aviation themed restaurant here at the airport where people can see out the windows, and it's a beautiful setting. You've got the mountains in the background. People can come here and ski, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. What do you have that's unique to your location, and who would it be the most appealing to? So targeting that list and that offer. And then what I would do is actually, in that case, there's only probably 10 people in a decision-making capacity that would be interested in that type of real estate. I could be wrong depending on your area. And then I would go visit those people, and talk to them and say, hey, here's a situation where it could be that this would be a good fit for you. We'd love to have you come visit, take you to lunch, give you a tour of the facility, et cetera. So it's a fairly small number of people. So you could spend some time and money wooing those customers, or at least educating those customers over time, or send them a package, here's some pictures and some reasons that you should be located here instead of where you are. That kind of thing. Be super targeted and super aggressive, respectfully, I guess.
Yeah, respectfully. Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Right. And there's only 10 of them. You can't afford to upset any of them. So respectfully.
And then when they're ready to make that purchase, because it's like, sometimes it's relocating their headquarters, for example, or relocating where they're going to locate their fleet or wherever. It's like you said, there's a lot of decision making, and it's not an immediate ROI. So it's pretty challenging in our case to measure.
Yeah. So you can also connect with more than one person in each of those organizations. So, the admin assistants, the gatekeepers, the other folks, it does not hurt to get them on your side, connect with them on LinkedIn, like their posts, laugh at their jokes. Just as you do in building any other relationship, you want them to see that you're good people. You're going to be a fun partner. It's a good environment at the airport, full of good people that they are going to enjoy working with, et cetera. Because a lot of those people have a lot more pull than you would expect in a decision like that. So, if you're connected to 10 or 20 people at that organization, or, have relationships with 10 or 20 people at that company, that's a lot better than just approaching the facilities guy and saying, here's an offer.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. And you can do that with community events and, other things, Chamber of Commerce, Rotary, depending on, your area. I don't know what the most effective local marketing and local networking would be, but that would be the direction I would go with that. You can also do some public speaking, in your local market about business and about mobility and about the advantages of the airport and other things like that. The way that you are interacting with the community and so on. You can look at, Greenville Downtown Airport and some of the other really good examples of ways that airports are integrating with the community and things like that to see if there's some good examples of things you could do there. Did that help?
It could. Thank you so much.
Okay.
It also helped to validate a lot of the things that I've been saying. So I could definitely take this back to my boss and say, hey, you see, I wasn't
said
so
this.
off.
Right. And this is recorded. So you can actually take this little piece and send it to him and say, you need to listen to minute 59 through 3 o'clock, and that's
Exactly.
Right. All right. So if you are a member of our marketing lab, then of course, you're welcome to all of our events and things like that. We do have one free event every month. Next month is going to be prospecting, which is our most important activity. Marketing does absolutely no good without getting new customers, and prospecting is the activity by which we guarantee our success with that. So if you are one of our marketing lab members, we're happy to have you. If you're not one of our marketing lab members, we're happy to have you as well. If you are in our lab, we're happy to also give you personalized service and strategize your world takeover and any other objectives that you have for 2024, so that we can get you where you want to be and get you the content, the skills, the networking, the tools, et cetera, that you need to get from where you are to where you want to be. So we'd be delighted to have you join us. Thank you for coming today, and we will see you again soon. And unfortunately, I have another meeting. I usually stick on for questions and answers, but I have another office hour I need to go to. So we'll see you soon, and thank you so much for coming.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.